All right, everybody. Welcome to episode number two or three,
Four?
three-ish, four,
Three or
five,
four?
divided by pi.
Dude, once you start getting above two,
Who cares, right?
numbers get hard.
Yeah, exactly. Well, speaking of numbers, okay. So here's the shirt.
Uh-huh. I saw it.
I have an imprint of my hand on my shirt. For those of you guys who are listening and can't see what we're doing here, I have 9 fingers. Okay. And it's kind of a thing with me, right? I use it. I joke around with it. I've based another company, the branding completely around my hand that got a chopped finger off. And you recently became part of the club, almost,
Mm-hmm.
almost became part of the club. What happened?
Yeah, I was taking my son to ride dirt bikes with a couple of his little buddies and their dad, and we were out there ready to go, and I was in a big hurry and moving way too fast, and I was lubricating the chain on his dirt bike, and then I run the chain through a rag to get the excess oil off it so it doesn't spray everywhere, and I wasn't paying attention. I got my finger caught between the chain and the sprocket, and it just chopped it off. It was just dangling by a little piece of skin, and
The
I
tip,
thought I
just the
just
tip,
crushed it.
right?
What's that?
Just the tip, right?
Just yeah, about yeah, just the tip, just after. Luckily, just before the knuckle, so it
Yeah.
didn't like wreck all the ligaments. I thought it was right on the joint, but it wasn't. It was right before the joint, so it didn't mess up the ligaments. It just crushed that bone. And when I looked at it just hanging off, I thought, oh my gosh, my life is going to be just like Dan's now.
Can't use
Yeah, dude.
chopsticks. Have to wear Velcro shoes.
Yeah, dude. Well, you had those, didn't you have those before you lost your finger though?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, that's
I
good.
did. Especially in college, we had during homecoming.
Yeah.
It our we would go to like Walmart and just dress up ridiculous, or go to Goodwill and find the
Yeah,
most ridiculous clothes. And
absolutely.
then I would take whiteout on my black Velcro shoes, and write something dumb on
Yep.
them.
Yep.
And so that was who I am before, who I was before I am now, if that
Yeah,
makes any sense at
absolutely.
all. I got to tell you a quick story this morning before, when, I don't know, as a parent or just a man, you have any of these moments where you don't have enough energy to get angry. So you just kind of have a, oh, geez, like, moment,
Oh
right?
yeah.
So we have a change jar in front of our sink that's on the windowsill. So I was up there trying to manage open this window, and it's just that windowsill is stacked full of shit, and the jar of coins falls down into the sink, and a ton of coins go into my garbage disposal. So
Yeah.
I have to sit there and put my hand in my garbage disposal and pull out 90 cents worth of nickels, or, whatever.
Right.
And I just like, there are certain points where, like, you have the little devil and the angel on your shoulder. The devil's like, leave this family, find a new life,
Yeah, that's right. It's not
and
worth
the,
it.
and the angel is like, you're a grown up, you can handle this. Like, and
Yeah.
so I listened to the angel. God forbid I ever listen to the devil.
Yeah, right. No,
It's
don't
like,
ever.
I just don't show up for one of these recordings, and you're like, hey, Dan, what are we doing? And it's like, this number is no longer in existence.
Yeah, right. No, absolutely. Yeah, that's a. I don't want to make a huge deal out of this, but just a
Yeah.
thought that crossed my mind is like just the jobs around the house, the tasks that just tend to fall on the husband or
Hmm.
on the man, and
Hmm.
sticking your hand into the filthy garbage disposal. That would be high on the list of like,
Exactly.
hey, we're super even and we do everything evenly and we both work really hard and there's nothing that either one of us won't do. Oh, there's a bunch of shit in the garbage disposal. That's you.
Yeah, exactly. So here's what I love that you brought that up, and I do want to make a big deal out of it. Okay,
Yeah.
because it's like, oh well, we should really work as a team on laundry, on the dishes, on
Yeah.
cooking the meals,
Yeah.
but it's a traditional man's job to do the landscaping, fix the lights, install new fixtures, do all this other stuff that I don't know how to do. Like,
Yeah.
you could hand me a tool, you could stand there and like help me move things, like build a deck.
Yeah.
I would have loved having some help building my deck last summer,
Yeah.
but or 2 summers ago. But that's a man's job. So,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
oh
My wife would actually want to do a lot of those things.
yeah,
I'm thinking more in terms of like, oh hey, the garbage bin outside is starting to smell really bad. Huh,
yeah,
which one of us should rinse it out?
yeah,
We're both just kind of standing there kicking rocks on the ground. Well, I guess I'll do it.
yeah. Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I would have, but I would
Yeah.
have, but
It's
so
just little stuff like that.
yeah, yeah.
Not that my
Uh,
wife wouldn't, but it just since I'm around, it just tends to fall on me somehow. That
exactly,
stuff.
exactly. We love them
Anything
though, right?
nasty, it's Kyle
We
work.
love them.
Yeah, love them to death.
Well, our garbage bin, we have a dog, so we go on our walks, and then we have to pick up the dog poop and go in there. And sometimes
Oh
those
yeah,
bags stick into the bottom, so the
yeah,
garbage truck, when they dump it out, it doesn't all
yep,
come out.
yep.
And so then this summer there'll be a time where I'm outside, basically dry heaving in my driveway, spraying dog feces out of my
Oh yeah.
yeah out of my garbage can.
Well, I bet your wife does that half the time.
Mm-hmm. When you mean like define half.
50% of the time that needs to happen, I bet it's you, and 50% of the time, I bet she does it, right?
Something like that, right? Close. You're
Yeah, right. I
close.
bet.
You're close.
I bet. Oh
Okay.
man.
So was it a while ago we sat down and or well, we weren't together. It was like a text barrage. We went
I
back
was
and
I was
forth.
sitting.
You were sitting. I was
Yeah.
probably sitting too. And we had a text barrage of all of the things that we wanted to cover. And we pulled one out of the hat, the digital hat today. And we're going to be talking about one thing was building self worth. Okay. And that was one of your ideas. So describe what you mean by building self worth.
Yeah, and then you added on to that without external validation.
Uh-huh.
Um, I think I was thinking about your transition from the corporate 9 to 5 to doing your own thing and needing to believe in yourself. Um, a lot of clients that I work with, and I do see a lot of male clients. Self-worth is a major theme that comes up really often,
Yeah.
and I think it's really often that it's mm, they're they're wishing they could please other people. They're seeing themselves through someone else's lens. They're wanting their performance and their results to earn them love
Mm-hmm.
and appreciation and respect and validation, just generally speaking. And that's not the worst thing in the world if you have healthy people in your life that can give that to you. But if you don't, then you turn into a bottomless pit of neediness
Mm-hmm.
for reassurance, and
Yeah.
you'll never be okay with yourself. And it's interesting because I've worked with hundreds and probably thousands of men over the past 14 years, and it's I would say I don't know if I can even think of an exception to this, but like after I get to know these guys, or as I'm getting to know these guys, it becomes pretty clear to me really quickly, like, oh, you're a really good dude. Like you actually have a lot to be proud of. You have a lot of reason to have self-worth and good self-esteem. If you would stop using other people's lenses to look at yourself
Mm-hmm.
and start developing your own lens for yourself, you would be way, way happier.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where that thought came from.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. Um, so let's talk a little bit about number one, building self worth in general, and then let's talk about doing it without validation, right?
Hmm.
Or do you feel that those two things go hand in hand and shouldn't be separated?
Um, it depends. With validation, we could call that reinforcement, and
Mm-hmm.
there's going to be some kind of reinforcement. It's really nice if you can grow up in a household that gives you healthy reinforcement or healthy validation.
Hmm.
Um, the good jobs and the attaboys, that's good. Maybe people have seen online like recent trends that I actually agree with of less praising the outcome and more praising the process to get there.
Right.
So if it's uh, we make this it's probably an overstep to call this a mistake. I don't think it's necessarily a mistake. It's just something to be aware of. If it's like your kids get good grades, you're like, "Wow, great job getting that A." Or
Hmm.
they do a great job on a project, or they hit a home run, or they have a great play and it's like, "Wow, good job making that great play. Wow, good job doing that thing that you did, that outcome."
Yep.
If kids only get praised for outcomes, then they only think they're good enough when they are producing good outcomes.
Right.
And so what if you have this kid that worked their butt off for something? Let's say it's sports, let's say they're playing baseball. I know we use that as an example often on here. It's just a really good example for life. It's
Yep.
part of why baseball's so popular. Um, let's say that your kid works their butt off in baseball and their team goes to state and they lose the championship game. Well, it's really easy for all the parents on the winning team to say, "Whoa, that's awesome. You guys are all great. Look at this major accomplishment." But like, are all the kids on the losing team pieces of crap?
Hmm.
They might think they are. If their self-worth depends on success, then anytime they don't have success, then they're going to feel like crap about themselves.
So that is hard, I feel,
Hmm.
especially if you've lost so many times in life. And what I mean by that is it could be you've lost in relationships,
Hmm.
you've lost in parenting, you've lost in business. If
Yeah.
you continue to lose and
Hmm.
so that, if I was to play devil's advocate here, I could say, well, the process is what is making me lose, to go back to that. So how do you identify whether or not the process of you being a good person and having self-worth is working?
That's a good question. It depends on what you're measuring yourself by. I would also say, all right, so it's a kind of a complex answer to that question. I think that you have to spend some time, we should all spend some time thinking about who we are, what we stand for, who we're not, what we don't stand for, how we think we should do things. We should think to ourselves really hard about what are my core values in life?
Mm-hmm.
What are my guiding principles in life?
Yep.
And I'm always going to try to act according to those. And as long as I've acted according to those things, then no matter what happens, I'm going to be okay with it.
Okay.
Okay. Now, so
Yeah.
that's a foundation right there, Dan.
Yeah.
Now from there, you can have a humble, growth-minded character, which is basically like, okay, I did my best, I got the results I got. Let me analyze those results and see what worked and what didn't. But you know what shouldn't be the problem? It shouldn't be your hard work. It
Yeah.
shouldn't be your attitude. And the hard how hard you work and your attitude, those are two things you can control everywhere.
Yes.
So you can't control necessarily perfectly if your business is successful or
Mm-hmm.
if your team wins. But you know what? You can control if you tried really hard to get your business off the ground. And if you asked a lot of people for help and for direction and you did a lot of research, you can control a lot of that. And also, I'm sure you are well aware of this, a lot of like entrepreneurs, first ventures fail.
Yeah.
And actually a lot of entrepreneurs that I've followed have talked about how that's really just an important part of the process.
Yeah.
That if they would have given up after their first major effort failed, they never would have gotten anywhere. And
Right.
so what they had to do was rely on their core values and guiding principles and say, all right, I really want to do this thing. I'm going to try my ass off and see what happens. And then I'm going to data collect from that, assess, analyze that data, and then do better next time.
Yeah. And that's one thing, as a parent, I have set an extreme goal for me to teach my kids a couple things. Number one, in life, there are times when you will work your hardest and you will still lose. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, and I think we mentioned this in another podcast when we were talking about kids sports, and I talked about me sitting down with my daughter and being like, what is your goals? Right.
Hmm.
She wanted a place at state wrestling. And I
Yeah.
said, okay, how do we get there? What are you willing to do to get there?
Hmm.
And she's like, okay. And so we wrote down a list. I held her accountable. She held herself accountable for that. And she got the results that she wanted out of that.
Yep.
But the thing about that, and this is why I love her to death, is she wasn't happy with
Yeah.
that result because she wanted more. And so um, when you set a foundation of how you are going to approach the process and what you can and you cannot control, um, when kind of going back to the failing over and over, I've done all that. I've done
Hmm.
all that, but it's still not bringing me the desired results that I want. How do
Hmm.
you know how do you know a person needs to adjust that process?
Which process?
The process of like building a business or becoming a better parent,
Yeah.
or because
Yeah.
there's always a foundation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And some people can handle loss and can handle getting fired, and they can be, oh dude, I'm great, like I'm gonna just move on, I can do that. But some
Yes.
people will sink, they'll be sad, they'll their self-worth will be questioned.
Yep.
Even if they abide by that foundation,
Hmm.
bad things can still happen in this
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
And so how do you recommend moving past that portion of it?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I think you double down on your values.
Yeah.
I think that's you're talking about resiliency.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you will have, if you have thought hard enough about who you want to be, the type of person that you want to be, then you will live and die by those values and those behaviors. And you will, if you get knocked down 1,000 times, you just have to get up 1,001 times.
Mm-hmm.
There are always more stones to overturn to see what's under them. If you are failing in the thing that you're trying to do, you need to get creative, and you likely need to get humble and go ask for a bunch of help and ask for help in places that you didn't before.
Yeah.
I think it's okay and probably human nature to like feel bad when something bad happens or you don't get the desired result. It's okay to you know retreat and regroup and lick your wounds. But then I think it's, as soon as you can, it's time to get back on your path. So I see values and core beliefs as like a beacon in the distance. If you can
Mm-hmm.
see, if you could imagine, Dan, there's like a forest in front of you, but 100 miles away you can see a beacon of light like shooting straight up into the air. Now, there isn't a perfect road between you and that beacon of light. All you know is that no matter what you do, no matter what paths you take, no matter what logs you have to crawl over, no matter what detours you have to take to get around a frickin' crick that's super deep or whatever, as long as you keep always trying to get to that beam of light, you know you're going in the right direction,
Yeah.
right? And that's
Yeah.
how you can prevent yourself from doubting yourself,
Right.
because the answer is just keep walking that direction. And if
Yeah.
you ever mess up, you get knocked off your path, um, you notice you took a detour in life, as soon as you realize it, you go, oh shit, I know what I'm doing. And you
Yeah.
look for that beacon of light again, and you start walking in that direction again. And
Right.
that's how your guiding principles and your core beliefs will help you navigate your entire life. And that's the stuff we need to live and die by. I think to your point, this question keeps coming back up because it's so hard to unhook from results.
Yes.
It's so hard to unhook from results. And I think that's just a testament to how deeply that's ingrained in us.
Yeah. All right. So the goal here is to build self-worth, and the
Mm-hmm.
goal is to do it on our own,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
To
if
get
you were to
measurable.
yeah,
Yeah.
if you were to go and seek help, then isn't that also the same as seeking outside validation, or is that two different things?
I think those are two very different things. I think
Okay.
to me, it's a skill to utilize resources.
Yep.
You use the word help, which might have a negative connotation for somebody that's like hyper independent.
Hmm.
I see it as utilizing resources and being really creative with your resources.
Yeah. Okay. Um, so I'm gonna use an example here. Maybe
Mhm.
it's a little bit of personal example. I don't know. Jump in with where maybe this touches in your life. But I think what happens is men over time, let's say they're in a marriage. It's going its distance. You know, you're
Mhm.
in it. You're in it with kids, and life is complex and it's fast moving and it's complicated. And I think jump in whenever you want.
Mhm.
As we get into the role of a provider, men are giving. I feel like for me, I feel like I'm giving a lot,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
I'm giving a lot. I am checking all the boxes that I possibly can have. I'm staying positive. I am shuttling the kids. I'm, doing, doing my share of all the work. I'm financially providing all of that stuff. And I think that men go through maybe a what about me stage
Mhm.
where they feel like they're giving and giving and giving, but they're not getting what they want in return.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
whether that can be anything from respect to sex to whatever it is that a man is seeking and he's not getting it. And then I think it's very easy for that man then to turn maybe to a spouse or a kids and and not necessarily lash out, but say to the like maybe subconsciously treat them different because he feels that they're not treating him the way he feels he needs to be deserved or he needs to
Yeah.
be treated.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yep. I would say that that would be like kind of cross contamination. I would say that like I would encourage someone to know their values and stick to their values no matter what.
Yeah.
Like you know, all those things that you listed, Dan, doing all the things for your kids, doing all the hard work for work, doing everything in your marriage, doing all the things. I would say Dan does those things because those are the things that Dan does.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how Dan can feel good about himself because Dan knows how Dan wants to run his life. And so
Yeah.
he does that. Um, uh, uh, to me, that's a connection, probably a connection problem and a communication problem, and
Mm-hmm.
not a self-worth problem. I think we accidentally allow our self-worth to get called into question when I actually don't think that it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say like that's a place that I would challenge somebody and say, if as long as you're like as long as you are doing all the things that you're doing, I think your self-worth can stay high. I think it's an appreciation issue and a communication and a connection issue that can be talked about with your spouse. I don't think it's tricky with kids because I don't think that kids owe you anything, and I doubt that you think that either.
Yeah.
I know that we would love to see appreciation from our kids, and that's probably a thing that we can, try to instill in them. But I would say that we probably make the mistake of allowing negative thoughts to creep in and have access to parts of us that we should actually have more stronger fortified. So I think your
Example.
self-worth should be more fortified. It really should be like this is what I'm doing because this is what I do.
Yeah.
This is how I decide to live my life, and as long as I live my life this way, I can look at myself in the mirror at the end of the day and be proud of myself. Okay, now that's its own thing. A
No, wait.
separate thing, go
One
ahead.
one second. What if you feel that someone else should be doing those things?
Yeah, that's wait, which things?
Well, just like I don't know, a man, he's got a, you said Dan does those things because that's who Dan is, or
Yeah.
and that stuff. But what if Dan does those things, but doesn't want to do those things,
Hmm.
right? So then is that where you're talking about it being a communication issue?
That's a communication thing.
Okay,
Yep. Yep.
okay,
That needs to be addressed in your relationship, and if you're struggling with that, then that's a communication issues in relationships and marriages is really difficult because there's not like a one size fits all model, because usually what I've learned is that both sides think that they're justified
Hmm.
to be however they're being, and both sides tend to have like a really good argument.
Yep.
Hey wife, I feel this way for these reasons, and then the wife says, hey, I feel this way for these reasons, and you're at a stalemate because neither of you are wrong. Like,
Yep.
you're both right for what you think and feel. So then I think there needs to be some humility to say, okay, we're on the same team here. As a good teammate and life partner, and I love you, like, what is it, like, what would be the kickstart that you would need from me to start to feel like, to start to feel better, so that then you could give me what I need to feel better? Because it's often a stalemate. It's like one partner's like, well, if you would just do this differently, then I would feel better, and the other one's like, well, if you would just do this differently, then I would feel better, and then they both just stand there with their arms crossed, like,
Hmm.
so who's it going to be?
Yeah.
Because there's some resentment there. Like, I work really hard, so I don't want to be the one to like do it. I don't want to have to freaking eat a shit sandwich again,
Yep.
And then the other one's going like, I'm overwhelmed too, and I have all this stuff on my plate, and I don't have the energy to give to you. So it's like, okay, well, you're both right. Good job, but you
Yeah.
get nowhere.
Yeah.
So I think somebody has to be, I think there has to be open enough communication that you both say, hey, can we like put down our weapons and have a truce and like come talk about like the state of the relationship, and how
Yeah.
we could, like, we both care about this, neither of us wants to leave. Maybe we need to like take down our walls on purpose, even though we don't feel like we have really good reason to take down our walls, because we
Mhm.
feel so justified for all of the grievances that we have. I think
Yeah.
it's a really humbling thing to say, okay, what do you need from me?
Yeah.
What do you need from me? And to lead by example, and then and to be able to say to your partner, whether it's the husband or the wife, saying to the other one, um what can I do for you? What would make you feel better? And
Hmm.
if you both are doing that for each other, then things start to get better. But I
Yeah.
think it's like, if you come at your partner with like frustration and accusations, if you know that that's going to trigger defensiveness in your partner, then that's a place that you have to improve your own skill in communication
Hmm.
and talking to your partner, because that might not be the way to approach them.
Right. Right. I think that is probably some of the most complicated parts of any relationship is
Mm-hmm.
what you just mentioned.
Totally agree.
I think there also comes a time, and I know a couple guys who I've talked with in the past that have this kind of scenario where they they're like the manly men, right?
Mhm.
They finally get the guts to let their walls down, which is something that they've never done in their life. They let their guard down. They go in and they try to communicate with the person that they love. And this could be a man or a woman.
Yeah.
This
Right.
isn't just a husband
Yeah.
and wife.
Someone really guarded has
Yep.
finally decided to let their guard down and be
Exactly.
vulnerable.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And then
that
they
happens.
do it.
Yep.
Okay. They're vulnerable. And it's such a shock to the other person that person only knows the previous version of them
Yeah.
and then goes, stop, like, dude, toughen up. Right. I come to you and I want to talk to you about how I'm feeling and what I feel like I'm lacking and what I would
Yeah.
like from you and what I wish I could do for you. And
Yeah.
then somebody turns around and goes, dude, stop whining, toughen up. Right.
Yeah.
What does that do to the person who just let down their guard to to have that communication?
Yeah. I would imagine that could be a huge gut punch.
Yeah.
Um, for sure. Also, I think if you can zoom out and realize, oh, that was the first time I ever did that. Why would I expect my wife to, or my partner, whether
Hmm.
it's the whichever partner it is, why
Yeah.
would I expect them to know how to respond to that perfectly? We've been stuck in our communication loops for years now. So if I change unbeknownst to my partner, why would they know exactly what to do? I think in that scenario, I think partner A who lowered their guard, um, I would encourage them to stick with it
Hmm.
and say, hey, like that was a really good, like you stepped on the ice to test it. I think like
Yeah.
keep trying. And
Yeah.
that like more communication without defensiveness and say, hey, like I'm trying to be vulnerable here. I really care about this. Um, I was met with, with the message that I was met with, like, I want to keep trying to be vulnerable. And in the future, I would like for you to not bring that message in response. I would like you to have a different response, a more caring response.
Yeah.
Because it also, there's a lag in emotional communication. And what I mean by that is just because I'm ready to experiment with letting my walls down, that doesn't mean that you're like instantaneously going to be ready to let your walls down.
Yeah.
So, I might have to choose to decide this is what I'm going to do because this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to wait and see how long it takes my partner to catch up with me.
Yeah.
I do think
Yeah.
that can all be communicated though. Like I wouldn't want to set my partner up for failure by just starting to be vulnerable without telling them what I'm doing and why, because my partner might go, "Oh my gosh, like what is this? I've never seen this side of my partner before." And they might even put their walls up higher because they're not sure what to do with it.
Yeah. Yeah. So how do you feel, or what are some things maybe some of your clients have brought to you, or maybe even your personal experiences where people start to question their self-worth, because life changes on a constant basis every single day.
Yeah.
And so you can go through life being the same person, but at some point values or um I don't know, people get old. Their bodies aren't young. The way
Hmm.
of thinking may change because they have kids now versus not having kids. All of
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So as someone goes through life, and maybe they had a great self-worth leading up to a certain point in their life, but that starts to weaken, how do you then strengthen that?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So the first part of your question,
And
the first part of your question was like, what are some common times that happens to people,
yeah,
right? So it's very common because what most people feel uncomfortable when they're on the steep part of the learning curve, and then we
uh-huh,
start to feel comfortable when that learning curve like chills out some, So like once you've been doing something for a while, you tend to feel more comfortable with it. So
yeah,
everything's the most scary at first. So when I notice these types of things coming up, like when people start to question their self-worth, tends to be around times of transition. And like a really common one is like a kid that just was kicking ass in high school, doing great grades, great friends, friend groups, kicking ass in sports. Everything's great life. And then they're going to go to college and everybody's like, "Oh, wow, you were so successful in high school. You're going to have so much fun in college. You have so many friends in high school. You're going to make a ton of new friends. You did so well academically. You're going to kill your classes." And the kid's like, "Yeah, that's right. That's who I am. That's yeah, I assume that too." And so then
yeah,
they go to college and they assume that freshman year of college is actually 13th grade of high school, and it's not. It's
yeah,
actually a whole new ball game because really what's happened is all their like they spent 12 years developing these friend groups and the sense of community, and they like really learned how to do school well, and so they're like way past the hard part of the learning curve. They're
yeah,
like they've been coasting for years by this point,
yeah,
and then they stir it up big time and start college. And I see all these kids that were really smart in high school struggle in college. And it's the first time they've ever struggled academically. They don't have teachers there to hold their hands anymore. They don't like all their friends aren't in the same classes. Like everything's falling on their shoulders. Their parents aren't there to wake them up or make them go to bed. All the things, right? Supports are all gone. It's all on them. And these students are like, oh my gosh, I'm not smart anymore.
yeah,
I'm not good enough anymore. Like I suck, and they get depressed. It's really common for freshmen in college to get depressed. And there is homesickness too, but it's more than that. It's that they've gone from feeling really comfortable in a life that they've developed to a brand new starting over, and all of a sudden they question themselves.
Yeah.
So that's a transition. With you, if you were working for some company and then you decide to quit and start your own company, that's a transition.
Hmm.
And you're putting yourself on the steep part of the learning curve, and you're going like, oh shit, this sucks. You start panicking. The only way out is through though, so you have to keep working your ass off. But for a while, you're like, oh God, what did
Yeah.
I do? Maybe
Yeah.
people are right. Maybe I should go find another job working for somebody else, and all like
Hmm.
the doubt sets in and the questioning yourself. So that's a time of transition. So I think any time that you're put back on the steep part of the learning curve, I think is a major trigger for um self doubt and
Yeah.
challenging, questioning your self worth.
Yeah. And then those are the curves, that the ups and downs that we go through.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what steps do we take to basically say, all right, dude, let's put the foot on the gas again?
And you know what? That's the answer right there. You have to, and if nobody tells you this, and I'm glad that people are listening to this podcast, the the answer is, how does Dan respond to challenges?
Hmm.
And you have to you insert your name there.
Yeah.
How do I respond to challenges? So it's very different from like, oh, I'm only good enough if this goes well. It's like, no, it's like I'm in the thick of it. How do I respond when things get hard? And that's a
Yeah.
part of ourselves that we have to like work on and develop. And it stinks, but it's actually a gift. Like it's not a fun, it's trial by fire, and it's not
Yeah.
fun. But man, you will come out as hardened steel if you are willing to go through it. And I think that's
Oh yeah.
we keep coming back to thoughts, and it's really true. It's how you conceptualize things. And that's why
Yeah.
it's real, like it's a, dude, it's like a cheat code to life. It's like you get a major boost in life if you have any healthy mentor, whether it's a parent or a coach or a teacher or anybody that can like be giving you these little tidbits of knowledge as you go, that can encourage you and say, yeah, that's right. It's hard right now. Dig deeper.
Yeah.
Like all you have to do is like gut this out and you will figure it out. I believe in you. If they can like tell you, yeah, this is really hard, and it's supposed to be. There's
Yeah.
no reason to think it wouldn't be this hard. Tell you what, if you keep working hard, you will figure it out. So you need to, that's the thing that we need to cultivate in ourselves. But yeah, I appreciate, I think your answer was even in your question of, you need to think about, zoom out and think, how do I respond to stress? How
Yeah.
do I respond to problems? And then that's what you do.
Yeah. I'll tell you this right now, from a business standpoint. Um, when I was hitting a kind of a period where I was like, oh my God, like, what am I going to do? And I
Mm-hmm.
just had a conversation with myself, and it was just, it's a go time.
Damn
Right.
right.
But the cool thing about that is, once you go through it, you struggle, you lose your sleep. Um, there's times where you've already now gone through that again. So the
Yeah.
next time you hit that, you almost have a little bit of a roadmap that allows you to be like, you see
Yes.
obstacle, you see an
Yes.
obstacle in the way. There's two types of people in this world. Some people slow down, and some people say, I'm jumping it.
Yeah.
Right. Like they're hitting the
Right.
gas, and
Mm-hmm.
they're going full
Yep.
throttle right at it. So, um,
Yep.
you
You
know,
you knowing how to get through that, Dan, that was earned. You
yeah,
earned that. And that's
yep,
how, that's a big part of where self-esteem comes from, is that you pushed through something really hard,
mm-hmm,
and you got through it. So that was like earned dopamine. Like I worked hard and then I got this result. And now, like you said, you're a deeper version of yourself. You are
yeah,
less naive about the world. The next time you hit a rough patch, you're like, oh, I know about rough patches. Let's
yeah,
go. And that
yep,
doesn't mean that it's fun. It doesn't mean that
right,
you like it, but you know,
right,
here, a small example. So, I chopped the end of my finger off, hurt real bad. I had to get a nerve block in my hand where they were giving me shots in my fingers, and it wasn't numb at all yet. So
yeah,
these are denumbing shots. I'm like, oh God, how bad is this gonna hurt? And they stick the first one in, and it's a bad pinch and then a bad burn. And then they're like, all right, we're doing 3 more of these. And I'm like, all right, well, I know how bad the first one hurt, so the rest of them will be just like that. So now I
yeah,
know. And now I know what to endure. But I
yeah,
only knew that from like allowing myself to go through it. And I was able to just be like, all right, do it.
yeah. and I know we've talked a little bit about this, but like for me in my business, and you know, going out on your own and doing things like that, there's only one person that can really do anything about that, and that is you, right? That's the individual, right?
Yeah.
If I said to somebody, here, help me, who doesn't know anything about what you're trying to accomplish or the vision that you have for whatever your goal is,
Mm-hmm.
then the only person that can help you is you.
Mm-hmm.
Where I feel things get extremely complicated is when your vision of a relationship and whoever you're in a relationship with has a different version of what that looks like.
Yeah.
And then there's no communication.
Yeah.
Well, holy shit, it's just two people, not even like, it's like two horses that pull a wagon, right? If
Yeah.
one's not pulling, that wagon's going to go in a circle.
Yeah.
So you both have to be equal in this whole, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
that's a metaphor for a marriage or whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
There, it's got to be, and if you're not willing to, you know, I'm a very strong believer that in each relationship there is there's a givers and takers, right? It's not saying that the takers don't give it all, but they probably give a little bit less than the giver of the relationship. And usually the giver is fine with being the giver. I mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
just who they are. That's what they've done and things
Mm-hmm.
like that. And I think that there's a balance there with, okay, I know I'm giving and I know that I'm doing a good job, but at some point the givers have been giving so long and so much that they just aren't getting they're kind of sick of giving.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Again, communication issue.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And I think kind of the similar to how if you're trying to like start your own business and you don't have anybody there to like help or support you that's already done it before, that's already walked that path, a really wise thing to do is to like expand your community and go find somebody, go seek
Yep.
a mentor
Mm-hmm.
that can help you with that sort of thing. And so
Yep.
I think that that could be applied in marriages and relationships as well. You know, I'm not a marriage and family therapist. I don't specialize in couples counseling. So I don't position myself as an expert in this, but I would recommend anybody that feels like they're stuck or like they've tried a bunch of things. Um, Dude, try a bunch of things you haven't tried then. Like if there's somebody that's struggling in their marriage and their relationship and they're struggling with communication and they're struggling with getting their points across, I would say, and not as a jerk, but I would say like, oh, well, how many books have you read about communication in
Mm-hmm.
your marriage? How many resources have you sought out to educate yourself, to give yourself expose yourself to ideas that you haven't been able to think of for yourself. And
Yeah.
I think oftentimes like people haven't done that because they're like really emotionally stuck in their head. And so I'm not looking down on them for that. But dude, there are books and books and books and books and books written about this, you know?
Yeah.
And you can arm yourself with that. You can build yourself up with that knowledge of, you know, how to approach a spouse that seems really unapproachable. My spouse seems really uninterested and really disconnected and really all of these things. Dude, that's a thing that's happened for years and years, you know, hundreds of years, and there are books written about it. I would
Yeah.
say like go read those resources. Download an audiobook about improving your marriage. Download an audiobook about improving communication. Um, Learn about what type of personality or attachment style your spouse has and and what things they respond to and what they don't respond to. There might be a bunch of information out there that could shed a lot of light on your situation that you just haven't been exposed to yet. And
Yeah.
there's a chance that you would learn about like say attachment styles, and then you would learn about your attachment style and you would learn about your partner's attachment style. And in that book it might say if your part here's a bunch of things, if your partner does all of these things, they probably have this attachment style, and you might go, oh my god, that totally describes them. And then
Yeah.
the very next page it might say if your partner has this attachment style, whatever you do, don't do these five things. You might look at those five things and go, oh damn it, those are the things I keep doing, you know. And then the very next page it might say hey, if your partner has this attachment style and you have this attachment style, here are common holes that people tend to fall into. Here's how to avoid them. Instead of doing this, do more of this and see
Yeah.
how that goes. But
Yeah.
I want to just put it out there that this type of information exists. And I think this is generally speaking about any problem, whether it's in a marriage or relationship or whatever. I think it's really common for people to retreat within and start to we just ruminate about our problems and we just sit
Mhm.
and stew on them. When I think that makes sense, but I think at some point we need to get outside of ourselves and start seeking new ideas, because
Yeah.
really what you're going to do is you're going to have this confirmation bias of you're only going to see all the things that keep making you mad. You're going to get stuck in circular thinking patterns where you keep like having the same thoughts over and over and over. You're going to keep coming to the same stuck points in your mind of like, oh, like, why isn't this getting better? And when that happens, that's when you start to spiral down,
Yeah.
and then your feelings get worse and worse and worse. And really, what you probably need is a huge interjection of new ideas, because you
Okay.
only have I only have access to the ideas that I happen to come up with. And if
Yeah.
I'm already in like a negative, frustrated frame of mind, like that's going to block out a bunch of ideas. I'm only going to have access to certain ideas. So I need to like really expose myself to other resources and other sources of information. And that can be counseling. I don't think counseling is the answer to everything.
Mhm.
But counseling can be awesome if you go to like a really experienced marriage counselor, a
Mhm.
relationship counselor, a marriage and family therapist, and say, hey, like, I want to figure out what I can do. What resources do you have for me? Teach me, please. That's a great option. And
Mhm.
also something similar of just researching on your own and finding popular books on the subject and listening to audiobooks or reading books or finding a YouTube channel by some therapist or psychologist that's a legit source, and then just like consume their information. I think really, man, I would really challenge people to be willing to purposefully seek out information that might be contrary to what they are already think. Because I
Yeah.
think when we feel a certain way, we'll go out and start looking for things that prove us right.
Mhm.
I think the algorithm does that to us hardcore. We'll just start to see more and more content that just like is already feeding into what we're thinking. So I think it's like it could be really powerful to do a bunch of research and see what it might be like to be our partner and see things
Yeah.
from our partner's perspective, and that might trigger new ideas in us. So I
Yeah.
think when we get really stuck, I think seeking out new sources, seeking out new ideas that might trigger new pathways for us to follow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry that was so long-winded. And
No,
feel free
that's a
to
great,
like call
I mean,
BS on any of that or
no,
push back on any of that. My word's not gospel.
yeah, I know. I just, you know more about all this stuff than I do. And so it's good to hear all that stuff. Now, while you were talking, is there any, I want to say, be careful type moments in the process of going out and getting new ideas? And let's say I go and read a book, right? Or I listen to a podcast or an audiobook or whatever about marriage counseling or
Mhm.
like something like that. And then you go to your spouse and then you say, well, I've read now all of these books and I've listened to experts about what, how I think or how we should go with this marriage. And the person, instead of going, oh, well, that's awesome, maybe we can start working on this, goes, well, why are you searching out all this information? Are you unhappy with me? Are you unhappy? And they take it in a negative way
Mhm.
instead of the original way in which you set out to do this stuff
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
on and I'm talking that could be flipped for men and or women.
It absolutely could be. Yeah, I think that again, it comes down to the skill of communication. One major tenet of communication is getting good at communicating your message in a way that the recipient will be willing to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to learn your spouse or your partner or whoever and get good at anticipating
Mm-hmm.
how not to say it, being able to anticipate like what the pitfalls are and the holes to not step in, and like, ooh, don't say it like this and do say it like this. Um, I think that we could consistently, as we talk about trying to improve relationships, we can always say, okay, but what if the worst case scenario? And take the next step. Okay, well, what if the worst case scenario there? Okay, take the next step. What if the worst case scenario there? Um, I think if somebody sticks with it, I think they're likely to find some common ground. I think they're likely to figure out what not to do. I think maybe there's a chance that a person would need to focus more on understanding their partner's point of view before they try to fix things. There's a
Hmm.
chance that their partner's like really frustrated, and there's a chance that their partner's depressed. There's a chance that their partner has really, really strong anxiety. There's a chance that their partner has their own personal history of, any type of criticism makes them feel like total shit about themselves. So if you bring anything to them that sounds even remotely like you're not doing something right or you're not good enough for me, then then it makes them clam up. And
Yeah.
so I think it might be a misstep to too quickly try to go to fixing things, and maybe then the move would be to put fixing things on hold and prioritize understanding your partner
Yeah.
and building them up and feeling them out and figuring out what they feel and why. And if they're, hopefully they would be on board for that. You're right. There is a chance that they wouldn't be. And for all
Yeah.
of the good things that you might try to do, that any partner might try to do, there's a chance that their partner would, not respond well to any of it. There's also a chance that they wouldn't respond until they feel like they're maybe about to lose their partner. And then they're at a crossroads, and maybe then they say, oh shit, like, okay, I don't want to lose you. I don't want to break up our family. Like, yes, I'm willing to
Yeah.
try the thing. And also, like, you know as well as I do that separations happen and divorce happens frequently, where one partner says, hey, I've tried. I've been trying forever. I've been really clear about my wants and needs. I've tried to be really sweet to you about all of this. I've tried to be really empathetic and focus on what you need, and like nothing's working, and I am absolutely miserable. And
Yeah.
so sometimes people do walk away. And I'm not saying if anybody should or shouldn't, but if all a person ever does is try for years and all the other person does is like shuts it all down, I'm not saying that divorce isn't an option.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be a last result, hopefully.
Yeah, yeah,
Through
absolutely.
anything like that. Okay, this popped into my head as we start going through all this. Let's say I have a great self worth,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I know we're trying to focus on this little asterisk without outside validation.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
But let's say I have a very high self worth when I get what I want from another person. But
Uh-huh.
then when I don't get what I want from that person, I am really heavy. I bring, like, I weigh down on myself,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I have no self worth because I don't get what I want.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
explain how that happens, and why, like, maybe why you shouldn't rely on other people to
Yeah.
build your self worth slash happiness.
Yep, yep, absolutely. It's really because it's one way is outcome oriented and the other way is process oriented, and we should always strive to be process oriented, which means like as long as I did things how I value them, then I'm okay with whatever the results are.
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody ever gives you a pat on the back or an attaboy, like let that be a cherry on top.
Yeah.
Don't let that be your your be all end all. And that's personal work. It is because I don't I would challenge people who are that way, and I think it's really really common by the way to be to require or feel like you need external validation. I think that's the way that our society trains people.
Mm-hmm.
It trains us, unfortunately. So I would say, hey, this is going to be some personal work for you. Like you have to start building your own foundation. You
Yeah.
have to decide what are the things that Dan thinks he needs to do to be a good person, generally speaking.
Yeah.
And then Dan would identify what Dan thinks a good person looks like. And then I would say, okay, Dan, try really hard to live your life that way. And I would have you list things out, like examples of being a good person. I'd have you go through all the different areas of your life. What's it like to be a good friend? What's it like to be a good um, employee or business owner? What's it like to be a good son? What's it like to be a good brother? What's it like to be all the things? And you would come up with a bunch of behaviors that you would do and
Hmm.
ways that you think. And then as we were doing that, anything that you identified that was like, oh yeah, I would make people feel good. I would challenge that. I'd say, nope, I want you to cross that one out because you can't control how other people feel. You can
Right.
only control what you do.
Right.
So a person would start to realize like, oh shit, there's a bunch of ways. This is really insidious. There's a bunch of things that sound like they'd be a good thing to rely on, but they're not actually reliable because they depend on other people.
Yeah.
So it would be like, to be a good brother, it's not make your brother happy. It's I'm gonna be there for my brother if he needs something.
Right.
I'm gonna try to build him up. I'm gonna try to encourage him. I'm gonna tell him the hard truth when he needs to hear it. That's what I think it means to be a good brother. So that's what
Yeah.
I'm gonna do. And then regardless of if my brother is happy with me or not, or if my brother is successful in his life, I can still have good self-worth because I did what I think it means to be a good brother.
Right. Right. Okay. Yeah.
Dude, it's a major unhooking from making other people happy.
Yeah.
And it's a really hardcore identification of how you think you should live your life. And
Yeah.
then as long as you live your life that way, you'll be okay with whatever the results are.
When you talk with your clients, are there is it a process? Like, is it a long drawn out process, or is there a moment in the process where they have kind of an aha moment where it's just like, oh my God, I've been doing this wrong the whole time?
Right, right. Yeah, it can be both. It can be
Yeah.
either. Yeah, sometimes it's a long drawn out process, which really just shows how ingrained it is. Like dude, it can be powerful for a person to like realize and put their finger on something they've never put their finger on before, which is like, wow, I have been desperately wanting the approval of fill in the blank.
Hmm.
My mom, my dad, my wife,
Yeah.
whoever. Um, and then we tend to analyze like, all right, well, tell me about that person. And what I'm really looking for is, does that person even have that to give you? Are you trying to get something from them that they don't even have the capacity to give you? And if
That right there. Holy shit, dude.
Yeah,
That's a big thing. That's a
yeah,
huge thing.
yeah, absolutely. Like I can't go carve a piece of bacon off my maple tree out there.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. It doesn't have it to give,
Yeah.
And there are people, and this is a thing that happens as we mature and get older. Is we start to see our parents, especially our parents, is when this tends to come up the most often. But that can happen in partnerships too. But we tend to see our parents more for like who they are rather than like who we've built them up to be.
Hmm.
We idolize our parents, we put them on pedestals, and as we get older, we start to realize like, oh shit, like maybe my dad never gave me a hug because his dad never gave him a hug.
Yeah.
So like I could mistakenly, without context, I could be like, my dad never hugged me because he didn't like me. I'm not worthy of a hug.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, tell me about your dad. Is he like hugging everybody else but you? Like it's obvious he doesn't like you and he won't hug you. Like, oh no, he doesn't hug anybody. Oh, that's interesting. He doesn't hug anybody, but you're taking it personally. Tell me
Hmm.
more about your dad's childhood. Oh yeah, it was like, it was rough. He was born in the 40s or 50s and like, he barely even talk to his dad or his dad beat him with a belt and X,
Yeah.
Y, and Z. Like he never got a hug. It's like, okay, so your dad might not know how to give a hug. That might not even be in his repertoire, but you're desperately wanting something he doesn't even have to give.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or the
That's
attaboys of
crazy.
the emotional support. Or maybe
Yeah.
maybe your dad like had to struggle so hard in life that he absolutely had to develop this hardened shell to get through. And maybe he did like one major step better for his family than his dad did for him. But part of the sacrifice he had to make is that he had to develop a really strong shell to do it. Maybe he grew up like poor, house to house, getting kicked out of places because his dad didn't work. And so he said, all right, I'm going to work my ass off. And so he works hard and put his own emotions to the side. And for that reason, he was like barely ever home.
Yeah.
And he didn't know how to parent because maybe his dad didn't parent him at all. And now here we are like wanting love from them. But it's not that they don't love us, it's that they don't have a template for that.
Yeah.
So now I'm probably just beating a dead horse, just saying the same thing in different ways, but
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
you get it.
So now we come to the part of the show where we flip it. Okay. Maybe I notice someone who has self-worth issues, whether that's a friend or maybe a wife who is going through something,
Hmm.
and you want to help these types of people,
Yeah.
right? What can we do to help build the self-worth of others, but do it in a way that we're not the only reason they're building their self-worth, and we, it's like, we'll help you get back on the horse, but you still need to ride.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, that's a good question. I like that a lot. I think that I mean, first of all, don't ever give up on them.
Yeah.
That'll become a self-fulfilling prophecy. If somebody thinks that they're worth leaving, then they probably will behave in ways that makes a person eventually give up on them and
Yeah.
walk away. So never give up on them. I think you can start complimenting them on their effort and their traits rather than their accomplishments. I think you can start to try to draw out from them um, what what they like about themselves and what they think they did well. I think with parents we can often tap into like, hey, like what version of you do you want your kids to see? And like if your kids are watching how you treat yourself and they're using how you treat yourself as a template for how they might treat themselves, is this what you want them to see? And if not, then what do you want them to see? And then once you've identified that, it's like, all right, well, let's practice doing that so that our kids can see it. And it's like, hey, well, if your daughter had the um, same low self esteem or low self concept of herself that you have of yourself, what how would you want her to change that? How would you want her to feel? And then it's less like try and build her up and more like start working on yourself so that she sees that.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. Um, then we start to have curveballs thrown
Mhm.
into this conversation, and this might be a whole nother topic for another day. But when we start to throw in things like addiction, right? Whether that's alcohol or narcotics of some sort, or I don't know, shit. I mean, these days people are addicted to even social media,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so when you start throwing in addiction, I feel like there's a whole nother side of this that I don't know. Like, do we talk about that now, or do we move that to another episode? Because I feel like obviously addiction can be the reason for your happiness, but it can also be the reason for all of your sadness.
Yeah.
Does that
Oh
make
yeah.
sense?
Oh yeah, for sure. And
Or
there's
and
also
self worth is a huge thing why people are addicts of certain things.
oh yeah, totally agree. I think that would best fit in in a different episode. I do think that I think self-worth and addiction can definitely be connected. Yeah, I think that that probably would need more time for us to unpack.
Yeah,
And also I
yeah,
wouldn't call myself an expert in that area either, but I'm happy to share my thoughts about it.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's say you got a client, he's in the process, he's coming out on top, and now he's got it. He's got back some self worth,
Hmm.
right? How do we maintain the self worth at this point, right? We've got it. We hit a low point. We came out of it. We
Yeah.
want to maintain it. Are there any tips that you give your clients that's like, okay, man, you're back on top. You may
Uh-huh.
not need me anymore. Here's
Yeah.
what we do to keep you on
Oh
the high
yeah.
horse.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that these tips are the same tips that can keep anybody healthy. And I think it's like constantly and consistently priming your brain to think and feel how you want it to. So there's this thing called the priming effect, and it's has face validity. It's like literally exactly what it sounds like it is. If I say, "Hey Dan, I want you like for the rest of today, I want you to notice every single white car that you see. Every white car out there, I want you to notice it. Start paying attention to white cars."
Mm-hmm.
What do you think you're going to notice the rest of the day?
White cars.
White cars. And that's not because there's magically more white cars. It's because I and we now have primed your brain to be aware of white cars. Okay? So now this is a thing that people don't realize because it's not taught is how purposeful we need to be with our own mental health and how purposeful we need to be with our thoughts. So I would say if you're it's really similar whether you're clawing and scratching to develop the type of person that you want to be or if you've like already arrived so to speak. I
Mm-hmm.
think the answer is still the same, which is prime your brain every single day and often throughout the day to think the thoughts that you want to think and be the person that you want to be. So it would be really wise to write yourself notes and to journal and to have like little sayings posted all over the place or to have like something on the background of your phone that you see often that's a reminder
Mm-hmm.
of your values and who you want to be. Because if you're not priming your brain for the positive, the negative is very seductive to our brain because
Yeah.
your brain is it's not wired for like feeling happy and relaxing. Like your brain really doesn't want to let its guard down very easily. So it's going to be your brain's going to be enticed by the negative because that's going to trigger your threat center. And your threat center is really strong. So any negative thoughts that you have, your brain codes that as a threat and then it wants to respond to it. And that's why those thoughts are really hard to stop thinking because you would be a fool to turn your back to a threat, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
that's why it's hard to stop thinking negative thoughts. But you can do it with you can basically overrun negative thoughts with positive thoughts. I would say the positive thoughts need to be like rational and reasonable. Like I wouldn't say, "Oh, I'm the best guy in the world and everybody loves me." Like that's
Mm-hmm.
not a rational positive thought. My positive thought would be more like, I'm a good dude and I'm a good enough person and I treat people well and I work hard and as long as I do those things, I'm okay with whatever the results are.
Yeah.
That's a more rational, reasonable, positive thought. And every time I have this thought like, "Oh gosh, what if did I annoy that person? Do they not like me? Are those people talking negatively about me?" That's a really good opportunity for you to counteract that with rational, reasonable thoughts like, "You know what? I bet they're not thinking about me. They're probably talking about somebody else. If they are talking about me and putting me down, then that's really immature of them. Those wouldn't be people I'd want to be around anyway. I didn't purposefully do anything bad. I know I didn't do anything bad. If I made a mistake and they make fun of me, those aren't people I want to be around anyway." Like that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of guys in a scenario like that would just play the fuck it card. They're
Yeah,
just like, fuck those dudes.
I
I'm
love
out.
it.
You
Oh,
know?
dude, fuck it is so strong. Oh,
Yeah.
dude, I utilize fuck it for sure.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep,
That's coming from a certified counselor and
yeah,
therapist that it is
absolutely.
okay to
Yeah,
play the fuck it card
yeah,
sometimes.
for sure. Play the fuck it card. I mean, that doesn't give you license to be a dickhead to somebody else.
Exactly.
But I
Exactly.
can definitely and probably often say, fuck it. If they think I'm a dumbass or not, whatever, I don't
Yep.
care.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I
Hey,
love that.
dude, I feel like this has been like our best episode so
Yeah,
far.
it's super good.
This
Yeah,
was a good one.
yeah, I
I
appreciate
think
it.
we unpacked a lot of things, and what I'm taking away from this
I was just
is,
gonna ask you. That's funny you said that.
yeah, I feel like what I took away from this conversation today was that it sucks to sometimes rely on like it sucks, but like relying on others, it cannot be the majority of who you are as
That's
a
right.
person,
That's right.
right? And if you're relying on a whole bunch of like other people to give you that validation, then I
Hmm.
think you're walking into a major trap.
Oh
So
yeah,
like what happens when that person is no longer here,
so true.
right?
Yep.
Or if that person has a change of heart
Yeah.
or whatever the case is, then what are you to do?
Hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
so I feel like everybody needs to work on something like this every single day, and maybe some people need to work on it more than others.
Yes.
But once you get to a point, and this is something that I had to deal with when I was younger, was who am I? What am I
Mm-hmm.
why I'm a nobody. And I actually had a conversation with a friend of mine recently where he is seeing someone, and we had a talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
um and he's like, what happens when, like, if I he had this feeling like, what what would happen if I was gone? Would people even miss me? Would people even care? And that's kind of a dark place to be,
Oh, yeah,
right? And
absolutely.
I told this dude, I'm like, dude, you're a great dad. You're a coach, you're a successful business person. There would be a lot of people who would be devastated if something happened to you and you were gone,
Absolutely.
right? So
Absolutely.
you got to get past that. People need to get past that. And sometimes it's harder than others. Some guys can just be
Mm-hmm.
like, you know what? You're right. I am good at what I do. And then they move on. And some
All
people
right.
need to go through a whole process
Yeah.
of building
Yeah.
and stuff for that. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah. Any final thoughts that you're
Um,
thinking about?
yeah, yeah. Well, you mentioned something that piqued my interest. When people say I don't know who I am, and I
Yeah.
hear that a lot, and so sometimes I'll look for evidence of like, all right, well, what do you know of yourself?
Yeah.
What are the things that you know of yourself that you just like don't want to give yourself credit for, but you actually know are true? I've assigned clients to go have conversations with people they're close to and basically ask them straight up, what do you like about me?
Mhm.
What's good about me?
Yeah.
Um, I also,
Do you think that could potentially be like that could hurt someone? Like like
oh
because
yeah, yeah, yeah.
other
If you
people.
treat somebody that's not healthy, that could be hurtful. But I've seen it be really impactful where somebody
Yeah.
goes to like somebody they know likes them, and
Hmm.
they ask like, "What do you like about me? What's good about me?" And the person says the things, and the person A is like, "Wow, it's really cool that you think that way. Like I didn't see that in myself."
Yeah.
Um, for people that really struggle with who they are, I ask them like, well, who do you want to be? What type of person do you want to be? And we can identify those things. And then I say, okay, well, what types of thoughts and behaviors would a person like that have and do?
Yeah.
And they can identify those. And I say, okay, now start doing those things and start to compile some evidence.
Yeah. So
You
it's like
know?
you're reverse engineering
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
their
And
thought
then,
process.
dude, here's the freaking stickiest part that I've noticed is like when people are like, geez, I'm just always a nice person and I keep getting shit on. Like it never works out and I'm always being the person that I want to be. Like, this isn't worth it. So then it's like, oh, what people are you choosing? Like, do
Yeah.
you keep seeking out unavailable people? Do you keep is there something about you and your history that makes you keep choosing people that will not appreciate you? And so you just keep proving to yourself that you're not good enough when really that's not the case. It's that you keep choosing people that, again, harkening back to what we said earlier, don't have that to give. So you
Yeah.
might just be attracted to a certain type of person and you might have this need to win people over that you've never been able to put your finger on. And once we can realize, like, hey, you notice how you keep finding people that are really hard to win over and then you just keep doubling down on that? Yeah, maybe that is a big part of the problem. So
Yeah.
like we need to be able to walk away from people that aren't healthy for us or at least distance ourselves and find people that are healthier. Also sometimes we there are people that appreciate us and love us and care about us and we discount that love and that validation because there's actually somebody that we're trying to win over. And so we'll turn a blind eye to 95% of the good content coming our way because, and we'll focus hardcore on the 5% of that one person that isn't giving it to us. And we use that
Yeah.
as a reason to disregard everything else good. And sometimes that's powerful to realize. It's like
Yeah.
you so strongly need it from that one person. And actually there's a term, I don't know if this is exactly going to be applied correctly. There's a term called the secondary gain, and that's basically where like a person is getting some benefit from having the problem. And so here's an example. I might not be using this exactly correctly, but even if it's mislabeled, this still is a thing that happens. Um, let's say that I really look up to you. I care about you. I desperately want your approval. I want you to see me. I want you to think
Mhm.
I'm good enough. I want you to build me up. I want you to validate me and love me. And so I just keep coming to you, seeking that.
Mhm.
Well, geez, Dan, if you're kind of an unhealthy person and it might feel really good to you to have somebody constantly crawling back to you and constantly
Mhm.
working so hard to need your attention
Mhm.
that you know what, you might be afraid that that person will leave you if you give them what they want, so you might actually be motivated to never give them that validation. So like I could be the best person on the planet and I'm just like begging for you to say it, and you won't say it because you know if you do, then I'll be fulfilled and I might leave. So you will just keep me crawling back. You could be very motivated to not build me up. You
Dude,
want to
I
keep me in that position so that I will keep crawling to you and then you'll feel like a very important guy.
yeah. And then both almost almost I'm trying to think like in a scenario like that, both people are kind of getting what they want in a negative environment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really sad. I
And
hate that one. I hate when I see that.
sometimes, well, I'm trying to I'm trying to think of an example where like maybe a woman is going to a man and maybe they're not married or she wants to be with him or something like that, so she's
Mm-hmm.
giving him like sex
Yeah.
or something like that, right? And
Yeah.
they're having and he's getting what he wants
Yeah.
out of the deal
Yeah.
by treating her poorly,
Uh-huh.
but then she's getting what she wants
Mm-hmm.
because she gets the attention of a man.
Yep.
Or like that's just the first thing that
That
popped into my
that
mind.
does happen. That's an example of
Yeah.
that negative cycle. So he has a reason to like always keep her, you know, uh coming back to try to earn his affection.
Yeah.
So he's really using her. I mean that's what it is. It's a using relationship when one person is purposefully not giving the other person what they need. And it's sad, and it's usually like the person that does that is really unhealthy themselves. I've seen like really bad emotional manipulation can come into play here. I've seen it happen that you know one person will be like act like maybe they are depressed, but they'll act especially depressed around this like really empathetic person because it makes the empathetic person come to them and like want to save them. So like when a person that is needy of attention meets a person that like really has a savior complex and wants to save somebody, the person that the person that is needing to be saved, air quotes, they will just always act like they're in distress. And so then the person that feels they get their sense of self by being a savior, they will just keep pouring themselves into that person. And it's funny because the more attention they give them, the worse the problem gets. And then if they ever try to pull away, then the person will use emotional manipulation like, "Oh, you're the only one I have in my life. You're the only one that understands me. You're the only one I can say any of this to. Don't tell anybody else." And then it can be like, "Oh, if you leave me, I'm going to kill myself." Well, now they've got them in a forever loop
A
because
trap.
that's the ultimate card to play. And if somebody gets that sick, then my heart goes out to them too, that they would be so sick that they would emotionally manipulate somebody with that card. And
Yeah.
sometimes they mean it. Sometimes they will go to that length of like a suicidal gesture, or sometimes they will take their lives. But if it doesn't get to that point, that can be just a horrible cycle where one person's like just all feigning how badly life is for them, and so then the savior's just so worried about them that they just keep crawling back. I've also seen, I don't know if you've ever seen this before, but I've seen a person be in a group of people and be like really happy and everything's cool, and then the person that is like afraid for them calls, and the person instantly shifts their personality, and they're like, "Oh, hey, oh, yeah, not feeling too good today." And they ham it
Yeah.
up to get that attention. And as soon as they're off the phone, they can be right back to like having fun with their friends.
Yeah.
It's I'm not saying every relationship like that is that way,
But
but I've seen that
they're
happen.
faking a certain part of their life.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
really sick. It's really sad.
Yeah. Dang,
Anyway, we're
dude.
getting like way in the weeds here with this stuff, and we should probably wrap up because I have a client pretty soon. But
All right. All
we
right.
could keep going forever, I think.
I think so. But I think this was a great topic
Yeah,
today,
yeah, I do
and
too.
we got some more stuff we need to talk about moving forward. We'll check the boxes off the list that we've started. I think there's even some things here that we can pull apart even deeper
Yeah,
than what we had. So,
definitely.
Kyle, thank you. I appreciate your time, and I'm glad this is working out for us.
Yeah,
And we will talk to you next week, my friend. And
yeah,
to all the people here that are listening now, if there is anybody listening, um, thank you for listening. Go to iTunes, go to Spotify, wherever you download your podcasts, and leave us a 5-star review. What that does is it helps us get indexed by Google and all the other places where podcasts can be discovered, and it just helps us get a little bit more attention and get more noticed. Um, and hopefully, we're doing that the healthy way, right?
right.
So,
Yes, yes, not
so
desperately needy.
yep, absolutely. And also go to the Man Therapy Instagram page. We have one of those set up now where I'm starting to put clips of this podcast up there to also generate some more interest in the show. So, Kyle, you good, dude?
I'm good. Hey, thank you very much for your time, man. I appreciate you a lot.